This is an interview with Paul Edwards, longtime Subud member, helper, and has had many committee positions and is currently the chair of Subud Vancouver in Canada. So Paul, can you start by telling us how you found and came into Subud?
You mean when I rolled the stone wheel out of the cave at that time, or
Yeah, I'll start with that.
is that with that? Okay. Well, I actually was married very young. I'm 75. Was married very young, 20. And it turns out my wife had a family friend who was in Subud. She didn't tell me that. It's just we're gonna have dinner with Pete or whoever it was. And I was in college at the time. She was in college, and I was into psychic stuff, spiritual stuff, but didn't know about Subud. And we were having dinner with him. It was very nice. It was kind of in a fairly humble, like a nice trailer kind of thing, but it was, I don't know. There was a nice feeling there. He had a nice feeling about himself, and I was talking about things I was interested in, and he didn't really talk too much, but I really liked him, liked the feeling of him. And then towards the end of it, he said, well, I do something. I get together with a group of men and we get quiet, and then someone says, please stand. We stand, and they say, begin. A man says, begin, and something happens inside of each of us that is unique to each one of us. It's called a latihan. And I just immediately was interested, just drawn to it like a moth to a flame. And that it was over, like, where is it? How do I get there? So I was in Orange County at the time, going to Fullerton State University in California. And the nearest, I believe the nearest Subud Center was the LA Hope Street Hall. So I just drove there, and for the first time, and bumped into Harlan McWillis, who was one of the main helpers at the hall at the time, 1970, 1969. And we just hit it off, and he became my opening helper. And he told me things like, think of yourself, what did he say? As an onion that has all these layers, and when you grow up, you add more of these layers, so eventually it might cover up your soul so that you don't have a direct connection with your soul inside. And Subud helps break those layers and peel those layers away until your soul can have a connection with you, can breathe again in earth living. And that can change your whole life. That means your soul can participate in your decisions, in what path you take. And they used to sit me right in front of the huge latihan hall, 200 men every time doing latihan. Lots of amazing echo in the hall. And it was the most beautiful sound every night. Different a lot of times, but absolutely beautiful. I was just stupefied. I was a musician, and I was stupefied by the sound of it and by the feeling of it. And then there I was by the front door, like this at the end of latihan, and I'd see the guys come out, and they'd be in such a good state, they're just floating out of there. So I was quite impressed. Just loved it. Not long after I was in Subud, LA, probationing, Mas Prio came into town, and this, there were 3 levels, 3 stories of the Subud Hall, and the very top story had this huge dining room, and so his whole family came in and swept up the stairs, and I followed them along with lots of other people. And yeah, and the place was packed just to the gills. I was in the back, Mas Prio was in the front. And I can't remember who it was. It was the artist, the sculptor in LA. I can't remember his name right now. Lukman Glasgow. And so he was right next to me, and he turned to me and he said, "You want to know Subud? This is Subud." Because it was amazing. It was like full of feelings and so many people, and it was just vibrating, right? So I was super impressed with Subud right in the beginning. I loved it. I turned straight as an arrow as soon as I was opened. It's like I was smoking pot. I was in college. I was doing all the things a young man likes to do. But it's like I went zoom like that. And I stopped smoking pot, which I love to do. And I couldn't quite realize why I was doing that, And that was the most favorite thing for everyone to do then. And nobody told me to stop smoking pot. I just stopped.
Huh.
Nobody told me, I honestly do feel that since that time, I have been guided to not get in trouble, guided to be on the straight and narrow. But it's not a Baptist thing or that you have to do it or you'll go to hell. None of that. None of that. Just I was there. And I guess the latihan was guiding me there. My soul was guiding me there. I've always said, a lot of people have a break from Subud. I totally understand. A lot of people leave Subud. I totally understand. I don't know what anybody should do. I can't judge anyone. It's enough for me to understand myself and to go through my process,
Yeah.
So I've just always felt that the latihan was home. I was at home doing the latihan, wherever I was, whatever group I was in. And I've always said to probation or young people too, that to me, the latihan has so many benefits. Just one of those benefits is worth it.
Yeah.
Like one of the benefits is you come in with a problem, and you always have problems. Everyone has problems. You come in with that problem and you're kind of kerfluxed and you're kind of emotional or whatever. And the latihan can usually show you another perspective than you were aware of, And that's what I should do. That's the decision I should make. That's how I should be with that person, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And once it gives you that perspective, then it clears your heart. Who is it? Sharif, I think, said, how can you not be happy being in Subud? It makes you happy. Like it clears your heart. Almost every latihan. Now you're happy again.
Yeah.
How's that for counseling? That's amazing therapy, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's creative. It's so creative. Latihan is spontaneous. It's your Latihan. It's not like anybody else's. That's cool. That's really cool, you know? And you have a special feeling for people in your group, you know? They call it brothers and sisters. Well, because you feel like brothers and sisters. And then there's testing, which is a whole world of Subud is testing, and I've benefited so much from testing.
So for people who may not know what testing is, can you explain
Yes,
that?
absolutely can. So the Latihan is spontaneous, so it comes to you, and it just and you let it come, and whatever happens, happens, you know. And it's usually beneficial, helpful, helps you grow spiritually, whatever. It's beyond words in a lot of cases. But testing allows you to ask a question in the Latihan, or ask God a question, or ask the universe a question, or ask the angels a question, or ask your loved ones on the other side a question, you know. And by asking that question, you might feel a certain way about what you're going to do, and then you ask, is it correct? Is this correct? And you get no. One of the best so it's direct channeling of the Latihan to help you in your life, you know. And it's usually spiritually, it's about spiritual stuff. Usually it can be about earth living, it can be about earthly stuff, but it's really, really good with spiritual stuff. Like my wife and I, Deanna, now been married to her for, I've been together with her for 18 years. We're soulmates. We're twin souls. When I met, I got that. You know, she's been in she was opened in Latihan when she was 21. I was opened in Latihan when I was 21. She was in Europe. I was in the United States. But we test, and we almost always get the same thing. Almost always. Or we just can go right to the next point, the next question. I realize mostly men test together and women test together, but we're married. We've been in Subud forever. It works. Testing, I'll say this, at every crossroad in my life, so I'm 75, at every crossroad, and I've had so many, and every person does, they come to a crossroads. Where do they go? What do they do? I've tested every time. And when I look back, and I think I've been able to follow that testing. When I look back, I realized that turned my life from prose into poetry. So important to me. And then I've had lots of spiritual experiences. I've been out of body. I started a retreat center, you know, Seven Circles Retreat Center in California. A lot of work, a lot of struggles, but we kept going. And one night at Seven Circles, I had a dream that I was helping my sensei, who's Japanese in college, who's a wonderful Japanese master who started a dance department there. I was doing into dance and music. And in this dream, these guides on the other side were telling me, are you willing? It's like Mission Impossible. We're going to give you this. Will you do it? Can you do it? You need to. Kuni, his name was Masami Kuni. He took 2 sacred scrolls from this temple, that gave him all these attributes in earth living. They need to go back. Will you put them back? I said, yes, I would. So it was like Mission Impossible. It felt like that. And I had to do it exactly at the right time with the guards not seeing and putting it back and all that. I did it. Once I did that, I was on top of a building instantly, holding a spirit body, a woman's spirit body's hand. And this lightning was coming down through our bodies and lighting up our spiritual bodies and getting stronger and stronger and stronger until finally I could not keep a hold of her hand and lost and fell back. And when I fell back, I woke up above my body, floating above my body, right? About 4 feet above,
Wow.
just floating there, you know? I was quite surprised. And thought, I must be dying, you know? So I asked, am I dying? And this was 2004, a beautiful voice, woman's voice said, no, dear one, this is the beginning of your life. And I said, well, what do I do? You know, and the voice said, assimilate. So I just relaxed and my body slowly floated back down, my spiritual body, my soul, spiritual body, slowly floated down into my physical body. And slowly, after a few minutes, I could move a little, and then I could sit up a little, and then I could sit up at the bed, and then I could stand up. It took me about an hour and a half to get back into my body, you know, be able to move around and everything. But it burned away the veil between this life and the other side. So much so, I was super psychic. I mean, I knew the future. I knew I could answer any question. So I called my wife. So we were almost done at Seven Circles. And I was driving home to Los Angeles, and Seven Circles was halfway between Los Angeles and San Francisco. You probably know that, right? And so I was driving home, and I stopped at a 7-Eleven or somewhere, and I called my wife at the time, Pamela, who was also in Subud. I said, Pamela, something very important has happened. I'll tell you about it when I get home, you know. So just as an example, I get home, I tell them, my daughter and my wife about it, who were at home at that time. And at the time, my daughter was working really hard to try to find the right college to go to. All over the country, 35 colleges. Which one's the right one, you know? And I just said, name them off. They started naming them, and I knew, nope, nope, maybe, nope, nope, maybe. Well, that was pretty good. Nope, that's the one. And I knew which college she should go to out of 35 colleges. I knew why. I knew how she should dress when she goes to the interview. I knew what she should say at the interview, you know, just stuff like that. And I've always been fairly psychic, but I was super psychic then. I'm not as psychic now, but I channel. I have lots of channels of people that have passed, lots of channels of Subud members who have passed, you know, who came to me a day or two later, Hamid Camp, just on and on and on. The Davalas, you know, I usually send them I asked their loved ones if they want to hear it. Evan Padilla just goes on and on and on, you know. But all through that, the latihan has been the golden thread through all that, or silver thread, you know, through all that. And now I'm just so lucky to be at Subud Vancouver because we have the best, amazing enterprise. We own our large commercial building outright, paid it off 10 years ago, have 3 commercial clients, and give a lot of money to Subud every year, so it's really fun. I also am the administrator of that center prize, along with Reynard von Hahn, who you probably know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Sorry.
Well, I'm curious more about the channeling thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
you can share?
What's that?
Is that something you can share?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Try to think when I started. Well, probably after the out of body experience or a little before then. My dad he was very sensitive man, and he used to play Debussy orchestral works when I was a kid, put it on the phonograph and ask me what I saw. And I'd tell him, or we'd go to these Christian retreats and people would bring me their paintings and I would tell them what they meant. I don't know how that happened. I mean, like, who set that up? I don't know, but it happened, So I've always loved spiritual things, and now channeling, it's right brain. Most creativity, I'm a musician, I had a group, we made records, I did a bunch of stuff in LA. I played the Chapman stick, an instrument nobody else plays hardly. With channeling, you have to be in the right space, and it's not a logical space or a thinking space. It's an open space. It's a little like getting ready for latihan,
Mhm.
But I find that people come to me, they want to talk to me, I can feel them knocking on my door, tapping on my window. So somebody wants to talk to me. I can feel it, and it usually is at night when it's quiet, and in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and I'll be in this state, and there's the person. Dainari wrote, or whoever. There's a lot of Subud people, some and not Subud people, but I don't know. I probably should put a book together. I have so many, but what they say is not what I would say. It's not how I would write. It's coming through me, and when I read them later, I'm just amazed. It's like, wow, I would never write that,
Can you give us any kind of an example?
I can, yeah, I can. Like we just celebrated my mother's 100th birthday, but she passed away when she was 88. But my sister, my daughter, Pamela, my ex-wife, Diana, we all got together on a Zoom, and let me see if I can find it real quick. Uh, um, that's the invite. Here. Here we go. You want me to? I'll just read one of them, right? It's just yeah, won't be. Hang on. So this is March 3rd, Sunday, 2019. Mom, I love you, Paul. Just want you to know that. It always continues. That is what is so wonderful. The feelings continue, but in an expanded state, without worry, without care. And the light of clarity that shines so bright, a love awareness that goes so deep. Paul, I am so grateful to be able to connect with you. Mom, it is wonderful and a great joy for me. You are on your path, and we are on your path. Paul, you and the angels? Mom, so many angels. So many. Mom, just enjoy being human without fear, without judgment, with love and joy, facing any challenge one day at a time in surrender and humility. Paul, I am grateful. Your constant support has meant so much. She was a great mom, too. Mom, it has only been my joy, only joy. And now, even more. Paul, it's so nice to feel the warmth of my mother's smile again.
Oh,
That's one of them. I've got millions of them. I've got a lot of them. Hamid, I remember when he passed away, we were all just stricken is the right word. He was a good friend of mine, and we did music together and a bunch of stuff. And he died suddenly, uh, with a major heart attack, and he was 70. And so I was sitting there grieving, missing him, sitting outside in the patio, smoking a Kraytech, and in his honor, and there he was, you know. And he said, "Hi, Paul." I said, "Hamid, why'd you have to die? We're all just stricken that you died so suddenly and so quickly and so young, really, And said, I know. Yeah, but we're really sad. We're really grieving. Your family's devastated." And then he said, I know. And I said, but we're not going to get over this. We're really, really, really upset and sad. He says, I know, but I'm not. I said, well, oh, he said, I'm not. And then he kept going. And then he said, I'm swimming in an ocean of love. You know? So he was really happy. So anyway, um, yeah, I mean, we know so little, we just know this little speck, I mean, the most spiritual man on earth knows very little compared to what is really going on, you know, because we're here to learn stuff on earth. It's earth living. We're here to learn lessons in earth living. That's why we're here. We signed up for it. That's fine. But there's so much more. Oh my God. And it's wonderful, you know. The only thing that matters on the other side is love. That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that's important. So what does that mean? People who don't have love here, who hurt other people and and didn't create love with others, wasted their time. You know, I mean, maybe they need to learn that. I totally believe in reincarnation. Like the proof of it's just like undeniable.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's wonderful to know that, at least to stick your toe. And in Lottie hunts, you stick your toe in the divine.
Mhm.
Recently, I talked to my dad. My dad died in 1981 of a brain tumor, and in Latihan recently, I asked, what's up with me right now? What's important for me? God, universe, angels, whatever, you know. And how you ask something before Latihan and then you just surrender it, right? Just while I was doing Latihan, my dad came and he said, Paul, there's only two things that are important. And I said, what? He said, try and have fun. Those are the two only important things. Or have fun trying.
Okay.
So I just thought that was so profound, really. There's a lot to that because trying means you're engaged in life, but you don't have to get the trophy, you don't have to get the grade, you don't have to have a legacy, you don't have to have all those ego things.
Yeah.
All you need to do is just be engaged in life and learn and get better at stuff or whatever, whatever your antenna sends you, go there, try, right? But having fun is really not understood, the importance of it.
Yeah.
It's super important, having fun. Because fun here is like nowhere else. It's like Earth living it's all sensory, So having fun here is like you remember it. Like
Mhm.
you remember the trips you took where you had so much fun, or you know, I don't know, or playing a game and had so much fun, or whatever. You're doing something that was so much fun. You remember that. You remember the fun times, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
I think those are the real times.
they are. That's why, like, fun is as important as the one other thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what about you?
This is not my
I
story.
know
This
this
is
is
your
not about
story.
you. I know this is not about you, but I want to say, I've seen a fair amount of your interviews, and I really appreciate that you've been doing this work, you know. And when and people are going, so they become treasures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really great. Yeah.
Oh, one other question. Have you ever had much contact with Bapak or had any experiences related to
Yeah,
seeing him?
yeah. So I went to the Shillondock World Congress in 1971. I was just a kid. Well, I'll start with Sudarto. Is that okay? Is
Sure.
Sudarto okay? Yeah. Sudarto was one of the main helpers there in Shillondock where Bapak lived. And I was a hippie, I had long hair. Still kind of do, musician, but I was sitting there and the president was coming, Suharto, I think it was
President
Suharto,
Suharto, yeah.
Suharto was coming to the World Congress, so there was this loudspeaker, all those men who have long hair must get it cut, you know, I go, what? Ah, you know, so, uh, so I did get it cut because what did I know? You know, I mean, so I did do that, but um, I wasn't sure. Oh, I think I got an appointment with Sudarto about that, you know, and so I got an appointment with him, and then I sat across his huge wooden desk in his office, you know, and as soon as I sat down, I realized I was with the heaviest dude I'd ever been with. It's like, whoa, you know, I could feel it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes, so what's the issue? I said, well, for one thing, do I need to cut my hair? He says, sorry, you kind of need to, whatever. I said, okay. And then also said, everybody's changing their name, Sudarto. Everyone, all my friends, all the men, all the women, they're all changing their names to other stupid names or stupid names. I don't feel to change my name. What's that all about? You know? And then he says, without skipping a beat, he says, well, when someone gives you a job, you take it inside you, and when it comes back out and you do the job, it's more than they expected. And I said, Earth to Siddhartho, my name, that's what I was asking about, not this thing. And he says, that's the meaning of your name. Paul is the right name. You have the right name. That's why you don't feel to change it.
Hmm.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, pretty neat.
Super awesome. So that was great. Bapak was amazing. So I'm sitting in the back of the hall, which that hall was friggin' gorgeous. Latihan Hall. They just built it, right? White, beautiful, huge. Bapak's up on the stage, Tadara, Tadara, and he's talking, you know, all Indonesian. And all this stuff is coming to me. All this stuff is coming to my brain. Boom, 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 boom. And then it wasn't Siddharto. Who was the first interpreter, um, translator?
Usman. Usman was the first
Usman.
one.
Usman, yeah. So Usman starts talking in English, and it was all the stuff that was coming to me when Bapak was talking.
Huh.
I mean, I've never experienced that any other time, except when I was there, you know, and that had that experience. I mean, I don't know if it happened more than one talk. I can't remember, but I totally remember experiencing that. I knew he was a heavy dude. I liked him a lot right away. You know, I just
You're
liked his
talking about Bapak.
Bapak. I just liked his nature. I liked his smile. He just was so relaxed, but just knew so much, or you know, there was so much depth to him and to the wisdom that he was imparting. You know, all that stuff about the latihan. That was really cool. And we did latihan with Bapak in that hall. The men, we had a session with him, right? I don't know. There might have been 50 men there, something like that. It was at night. And so he was asking questions for us to receive, right? And he says, smell your heart. And most of the men go, oh, he's finished. He says, like he didn't let it go very long. Most of us didn't have pure hearts, you know. um, I've been to just so many Bapak talks. I used to record Bapak in LA and California. And I had an amazing experience one time. I was recording him. So I was right, you know, like here he was on stage. This family was in the front seats. And there I was right there. And I went into this space watching the VU meters. I could see energy going between Bapak and his family and back and forth. Energy, data, you know? And then I went out and I went into 2 past lives. While sitting there, I was 25, 26, and at my past lives, one life, I was an Arab trader, and also like stole things and treated object as they're mine. That's mine. It's okay. I'll just take that for myself. That was my consciousness. Other one, I was that way with women. An other life, old life. Women, I take that woman. I'll take that woman. And I really felt that. I experienced it. So when I came out of that, Bapak was finishing. I finished the recording and I staggered out to a big grassy area and sat at a tree for 3 hours. Just sat there, trying to grok or absorb what had just happened. And what had just happened was I experienced 2 past lives when I was not a nice guy in any way, shape, or form. And it changed my life on that day. That day, I mean, I was never a super judgmental, bad person or anything. That day, I never judged a homeless person again. I never judged anybody who was maybe in trouble again, because I was there. I knew what it was like to be there. I experienced that. I'm sure it's because of Bapak, because I'm sure that the level that Bapak was operating on got me into that space, So that's an experience I had with Bapak. I do have one story that Hamid Camp told, which was amazing with Bapak. Bapak used to come to the Miramar Hotel in LA, beautiful hotel in Santa Monica. I recorded that, too. And Hamid told this story where, Bapak was on the 6th floor or something, his suite. And Hamid, I think, was on the elevator with him, but Bapak didn't really see him. So Bapak came in, you know, he had a very kind of a regal air about him, the way he walked and everything. He came in, got in the elevator, didn't see Hamid, got to the 6th floor and left the elevator, and immediately kind of slumped with his walk. Like Hamid thought, my God, the amount of weight this guy carries. Like he took off the pretenses and just became human, and he could see that he was carrying a lot of weight by being an international leader like that, So that's an interesting story,
Yeah.
But I mean, all of his talks are amazing. I mean, a lot of people listen to his talk still, and there's a lot of insight in there, amazing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing that his early talks are still just as pertinent as
Oh,
things later. So
because they're about spiritual things that never get old, I mean, never lose the profundity. They're never not profound. They are profound. They'll always be profound. That's why the channels that I have, I look back at them like 10 years ago. Wow. You know what I mean? Because they're from that place,
yeah,
But I'm so grateful to have been in Subud. Unbelievably grateful. I've never not wanted to be in Subud. I've always done the latihan, you know, because it's home for me. It's home. It's my home, you know.
Me too. Hmm.
And another thing that's really great is aging. Subud helps you age better.
Yeah.
You know, you're not a bitter old man, you know, because you're not ego-based. And you have a sense that there's something amazing ahead, you know? And that changes your life, just that one thing. And you're not afraid of death, really. You know, I mean, you don't want to die, you don't want to be in pain, but you're not afraid of death. Everyone's afraid of death. Almost every human's afraid of death. It's underlying in their psychology. Everything they do, afraid of death. Keep away from dying. Don't die, you know. Anyway, that's a huge benefit. Simple. Look at people that aren't spiritual and see how they're doing when they're 85, when they're 80. Not very well. And I'm not just talking about physically. They're grumpy. They feel like a failing human. They feel like it's going to be over soon. Well, I don't feel that way. I don't believe that.
No.
And even if I'm wrong, it's better to think how I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing you said about having fun.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people don't think much of fun. It's like, well, I don't have time for fun. I understand that. You know, life is hard. It's complicated. There's a lot of stuff to get done and do, and but no, like fun is really important.
Yeah.
Mm. And I hope I can help Subud grow again. Subud that people can't find Subud, and that's terrible. You know, so I'm trying to change that. You know.
Yeah. Me too, in my way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have any more questions, but if you have anything else you'd like to say, or
Well, Bapak used to say, you know, do you know how lucky you are? Remember that? Bapak used to say that. Do you know how lucky you are that you do the latihan, that you have that? You know, he was right. He was absolutely right. And then as time goes by, the longer you're in latihan, it penetrates you more. It doesn't stay the same. No, it penetrates your life more, so that your life, the idea of becoming more alive with the latihan. I try to do that with music. Like I performed at one of the national congresses at, I think it was at Vancouver, Oregon, or Washington, Vancouver, a big hotel. I decided to try that. That I would play only the music that came through latihan. The next note had to come through latihan, then I'd play that note, and I would practice that. I practiced that for years, and that's amazing. You know, I mean, that's something I can only do later in my life because I've been doing the latihan a long time. And also, when I was a helper in Palo Alto, an older man, a wonderful man who's a doctor, who's 65, was just opened, you know, and he says, Paul, can you help me? I was an active helper there. Can you help me understand? Because I don't think I'm doing latihan. I don't know if I could start the latihan. Like, can you help me get some bearing on that, you know? So I said, well, let's test about it. He says, oh, good. Okay. So we had just him and me, we tested. And I've done this with more people than him, but I did this with him. I said, so, Irv, how is your latihan when you were opened? So we tested that, and it was just a smidgen, you know. How is your latihan now? Maybe it was 6 months, a year later. A little better, you know, a little more, you know. How will your latihan be in 5 years? Better, bigger, you know. How will your latihan be in 10 years? Better, like a whole different thing, you know. So I tested him like maybe through 20 years, you know, and I think that really helped him have some reference. And while I was doing that, I realized that I had this huge linear landscape when I was receiving with them, and he was just a little baby in the latihan. And that's normal because it takes time. You grow in the latihan, you know? So that was nice for me to realize what my inner landscape was like. Way more fine, bigger, but more, had an incredible nuance, fineness to it, you know? That was a neat experience for me. I'll never forget that. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's it. I think that's all I can think of, you know. I've only been with Subud women.
Say that again.
I've only been with Subud women my whole life.
Okay.
I mean, I'm kidding when, you know. Well, I don't know what anybody should do, you know, but that's what I did. It just was too important for me to be able to share that, you know. Yeah.
Well, since you brought it up, I have another question. What has Subud, how has Subud affected your sexual life?
Um,
If you want to go into
no,
it.
no, I don't mind. No, I don't mind that. To be honest, it's funny because I'm a musician, but sexuality hasn't, maybe it hasn't been my strong suit, or it hasn't been like, it's hard to say. What can I say? I haven't made it primary in my life, okay? But what I believe is with the latihan, you can go into latihan in the sexual experience, and that's amazing, you know. So that's what I think. I think the latihan helps sexuality because it goes deeper, you know. And also, I think men and women who Bapak talked about that, you know, like if you're in the right place in the latihan, it changes who decides to come through you, you know, or it changes what's happening in your sexuality, you know.
Yeah.
But life's complicated. There's so much to life, but
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. It's cool, you know.
So I guess you would recommend Subud to people.
Oh no, no, it hasn't worked for me. I've been in it for 54 years, and that's it. It's over. No. I recommend Subud, like, you know, I love being a helper. I just always am on the committee because the group needs saved or something, you know. But I've been a helper a lot. When I wasn't the chair or the whatever, I was a helper, you know. I just love catching some young person who's starting off in Subaru just to tell them, do you know how lucky you are? Because if you can just continue with your latihan, you'll go far in spiritually, you know. You'll go far, you'll grow. You're so lucky. Like Irv, who was 65, he was a baby in the Lhari, spiritually in the Latihan. So, no, I recommend Subud to anybody who's interested, you know. And I'm doing this whole campaign to help people find Subud, you know. Yeah, I think I recommend Subud. I'm so lucky. I'm just a lucky guy. I'm just so lucky I found Subud. I mean, I'm happy. I mean, I have bad days, bad astro days. The planets are doing weird stuff too. And but a Latihan can help bring me back, you know. It does help me bring me back. I'm just I've had a blessed life. I have to say that. I've been very lucky. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.
Thanks for finding me.